Hello everyone. You might find it a little odd that I have my pajamas on, but I am going to talk to you about a dream. And I thought it was only fitting that I wear my PJs. I even have my bedroom slippers on too. I don't know if any of you out there believe that God speaks to you through dreams. I know He speaks to us through the Holy Spirit. He can speak to us through His Word and through prayer. But I think He also speaks to us in dreams. Last night I had a dream, and well, actually it would have been this morning before I woke up. I woke up at about 6:45 a.m. and this dream that I had, it just seemed so vivid. It didn't make too much sense on the surface, but I felt the urge that I had to get up and write it down. And I started making scribbly notes, and the more I wrote, the more I remembered. So I decided to type up some notes, and as I was typing, thoughts were flooding my mind. And it was just as if I had to get it out. I had to get it out on paper. And I thought to myself, God, what are you trying to tell me through this dream? Because I know a lot of dreams are just, I don't know, if you ate something that affected you, or if you're stressed, or our dreams can be affected by everything. But this dream was just a little bit different. So I thought I'd like to share it with you. I'm going to give you what my interpretation is of the dream at the end, but I'll pause for a few seconds. You can pause it there if you would like to meditate on it and see what you think the dream might be saying. But I'm just going to read my dream to you. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget, and just see what you think. So my dream starts with, I had been having problems with a bear. Everywhere I went, this bear kept on showing up in my dream. I would hide from it, but mainly when I was hiding, I was in a shabby looking shed. My old home place that I lived in about 40 years ago, we had a shed down at the end of the driveway. The house was up here, and you would back up, and down there was a shed. Well, this is the shed I was hiding in, but it's been so old, it had holes in it, cracks and everything, and it was dark and dirty. And I can just remember looking out and realizing that that bear could get in if it wanted to. It was as if this kept on like a continuous play cycle. Like on YouTube, you can set a video to play again and again, or a song to play again and again. This kept on playing again over and over in my mind with this bear coming after me. But it would seem like there was a different shed that I was in each time. But after that took place, it's just like I'm suddenly in a therapist office, waiting in the waiting room. And the room had several other people in it, and we had all been waiting for some time. So finally they called the last person's name in front of me to go. And I thought, well, finally, I'm going to get to see the therapist. But right as they called that last person's name, they said, I think she's going to be here a while. She has some serious problems. So I would recommend that you not wait in this waiting room, didn't make much sense, but go over to another waiting room. So when I got to the other waiting room, the people behind me that was in the other waiting room, they were now in front of me. And even though I knew it was my turn to go next. So when the receptionist said, next, they didn't call the name, they just said next, I stood up because I knew it was my turn. But immediately when I got up, a gentleman tried to stop me from going to the door. But I was determined to go. He kept on grabbing me and trying to pull me back. He didn't want me to go to the door. He did not want me to go to that therapist. And I started to yell, help me, help me. And as soon as I did that, I didn't walk into this other room. I was like transported into another room. And this room was a dimly lit room. The therapist was there, along there again with several other people. And there was a small child who was rolling around on the floor. The child couldn't walk. There was something wrong with the child's legs. And at first I thought maybe this child belonged to the therapist, that this was her child and that she had to bring the child to work. But I wasn't sure. I just began wondering, why is this child here? And what is wrong with the child's legs? And I kept on looking at the child. I watched her play. I watched her scoot herself all around the floor. So once I took my focus off the child, then my focus went to all the other people in the waiting room again. Not the waiting room, but the room that we were in with the therapist. And I can remember thinking of how strange it is. Why are all these people talking? I'm supposed to be seeing the therapist. I want to talk to the therapist, and I don't want all these other people to hear what I have to say. And then my mind went right back to that toddler. The toddler's still here. What in the world is this toddler doing here? So I'm getting frustrated. I can't see, it took me so long to see the therapist. I had to go from one waiting room to the next. And now that I'm actually in her office, there's all these other people around and this child that I can't figure out why they're there. So then the therapist finally stands up and she asked me to follow her. But first she asked me an odd question. She said, "Do you believe in God? And did I want an experience that involved God or not?" I had the choice. And of course I told her, yes, I would like an experience with God. Then she took off and headed down a long hallway without saying a word to me. And another lady joined up with her, and they were talking to each other, and they didn't even involve me in the conversation. They just started walking away, so I started to follow them down the hall. But I had to keep a very fast pace to even keep them in view. It was almost as if I had to run to keep up with them. So it was like I was in a race that I wasn't even close to winning. And I kept on lagging behind until I could barely see them. And this was a huge building. It had all kinds of restaurants. It had auditoriums, different wings, and long hallways. It felt kind of like the cross between a high school and a hospital. And the next thing I know, they just disappeared. They were gone. I couldn't see them anymore. I was looking all over. I went all through the auditorium, down different hallways. I even started to look in ice bins. Do you ever see this, the big freezer type things where you get in and get a bag of ice out? It's almost as if I thought they were hiding somewhere, like that was a trap door, like that was a fake door. It didn't make any sense at the time. I realized at that point that I had left my pocketbook back in one of the auditoriums while I was searching for them. So I had to backtrack to retrieve that, which made me think that there was no way I was ever going to catch up to them or even find them. I was scared. I started to panic. I felt lost, even though there were thousands of people all around me in this building. This building was huge. There was people everywhere. It was crowded while I was trying to look for the therapist and whoever that lady was with her. But after searching for so long, I decided to finally ask someone if they know this therapist, where I might find this therapist. But I couldn't remember her name. I tried to describe her to the person in front of me, but I had a hard time recalling what she even looked like. Then all of a sudden, there she was, the therapist. She appeared. We were back where we started from. It was almost once again like all of a sudden we were transported back to that dimly lit room where the little child was, where a few other people were, and we were all talking. Now the other lady though wasn't with her anymore, so I'm not quite sure where she was at. She didn't come to the room with us. I felt a sense of relief, and I recall asking her, "Where did you go?" She said, "Tonya, if you would have come back here and waited, you would have seen that I was here all the time. I never left. you were the one who left me." I looked at her and said, "That kind of reminds me of God." She didn't respond. She just said that that's the end of our first session. And I can remember thinking, what? That's the end of our first session? I didn't even get a chance to talk to you. I chased you all around these auditoriums, hallways, all over the place. I didn't even see you. So then I woke up. So there you have it. That's my dream, my odd, strange dream of a bear who kept on following me, of me trying to get to see a therapist, having to go from one waiting room to the next. When I do get to her room, she doesn't have time to focus just on me. Everybody else is there. My mind is focused on some child I don't know who can't walk. I can't figure out why she's there. I can't figure out why I have to sit in a room with a bunch of other people when I should be seeing the therapist myself. And then after I find her once again, she says, "That's it. Your first session is over." So I am going to tell you what I interpreted this dream to me. Some of you out there may have a different interpretation of it. Some of you might think it's just a bunch of baloney and doesn't mean anything. But when I started writing notes of the dream, all these other thoughts started coming into my mind, which made me think that God is trying to tell me something. And God does that sometimes. It's not always just clear as day. Sometimes we have to listen closely and figure out exactly what He's trying to say. So here's what I think the dream means. As I meditated on my dream, I realized for me that the bear represented all of the things that frighten us in this world. No matter how hard we try to keep him out, he can still get into one of those little cracks. And it keeps on happening in our lives over and over again. The fears, the worries, and the anxieties. The dark, dirty shed represents the times when we don't trust God, when we don't let His light shine through, when we are too scared to leave our place of comfort and only see a glimpse of His face through the holes in the cracks. When we trust in Him, we can leave that dirty shed, throw away the fears, and leave all the darkness behind. And the therapist represents God. We wait and wait and wait to see God in the situations in our life. It seems that everyone else gets to see Him first. Even when it's our turn after waiting for so long, someone else wants to jump in ahead of us. The guy who grabbed me represents all the people who try to lead us down the wrong path, who want us to take our focus off of God and put it on the ways of the world. They come out of nowhere in forms of many things: anger, lust, fear, hatred, pride, ignorance, and selfish, just to name a few. The lady walking beside the therapist represents the people we may be jealous of, the people we feel have received more of God's blessings, the people who seem to be so in tune with God and they have His ear, the people who we wish we could be like, the people who seem to have it all together, the people we think are more important than us, and the people we think God cares about most. The ice bins represents the times when we think God is hiding from us, the times we can't hear from Him, the times when we feel lost and afraid. But we forget that we aren't in a competition with anyone or anything to receive God's love and attention. We don't need to keep running in our life to keep up with God. We don't need to keep searching because He is already here. We simply need to take our focus off of that big black bear and come out of that shabby old shed and know that God is right here with us. He is here to help us with all of our fears and anxieties. The waiting room represents our patience. How patient are we? Do we expect an answer to our prayers immediately? Do we give up and stop praying if we think our prayers aren't being answered in the way that they should be? Do we give up on God? Do we let other people get in our way of our relationship with Him? Do we let them tell us who they think God is and not who we think He is? The little child who couldn't walk represents our need to figure everything out. Why was she there? Who did she belong to? Why couldn't she walk? We need to be patient through all of the trials in this life and know that some things don't make any sense to us, and they never will. Those are the things we need to turn over to God and let Him take care of. He gives us the choice whether to trust Him or not, whether to open our eyes and see only Him, to block out all of the other noises and distractions which the thousands of other people in my dream represented. And when we think that the session has ended, when we think we didn't even get a chance to talk to God, we are sadly mistaken, because He is still there ready for session number 2, session number 3, and all of the other sessions to come. He doesn't leave us. We stray away from Him, searching for Him in all the wrong places. And we always have the choice to turn around, to seek His face, to avoid the other distractions in life, to let go of our fears and anxieties, to give the hard questions to Him, and trust that one day we will see Him face to face. When we call out for help, He is there, and He does hear us. So I think that this was a wonderful first session, and I look forward to session number 2. And I thank God for giving me this dream. He says to me in that dream, Tonya, you are my loved and cherished daughter. You are my child who needs to be reminded of these things each and every day. Tonya D. Miller, I love you. From your Father, God. So I am so grateful for that dream. To me, God was speaking to me, and today I chose to listen. I chose to write it down, and I chose to share it. I chose to share it with each and every one of you. And while I'm sharing it with you, it reminds me of how I need to hear this. I need to remember that I am important to God, that I can give all my cares and worries over to Him, that He will always be there. I don't have to race after Him for His attention. I don't have to look in the ice bins or the trap doors to try to find Him as if He's hiding from me. I simply need to open my heart, my ears, and my eyes to Him. And He is there. When I have a problem, I need to cry out to Him, Lord, help me, help me. And He will. So I thank you for joining me here this evening. And I hope you are blessed by my dream. And if any more of these dreams come up, I'll be sure to share them with you again. Or if you'd like to share a dream with me, please do. Thank you once again, and I'll see you next week on Dee's Delights.